Hey, how's it going, people? Doing another base tour of a very familiar looking base to some of you probably at this point, because I've moved to yet another server and I built the same damn base again. But I built it in a really cool spot. It's got a hell of a view up here. I'm on one of these flying islands, and well, it's not drawing the high res version of some of the stuff in the distance, so it kind of looks funky right now, but sometimes it does. I don't know why sometimes it draws only the low poly version and sometimes it draws the higher poly version. It might be because I'm on the PS5 and I have like a ridiculously high resolution going right now, and maybe it lowers the settings. I don't know. I'll screw around with that later. But yeah, this is the same build. I've done it again. I've had the same base now several times, but each time I've built this thing, I've made little improvements every time. So this is the best, this is the biggest, I mean, this is the newest, shiniest, and most refined version of this build so far, and it's really got some cool new features, and it's in a really cool spot on this new map. I'm going to go through some of the cool stuff and show it around. But one of the reasons why I'm building here is my rag base. That was my main base. I was on I've just been refreshing lately, waiting for Genesis 2 to come out. And apparently it didn't save a couple of the times I was on for a whole week or so plus. And some of my stuff decayed. And, my old version of the same build here, I would put wood under the glass because I thought it looked, nice to have different materials in use. But the problem is all the wood decayed. So while the glass decayed, all these walls disappeared on the other version. And I couldn't replace them because there's stuff right up next to them that was blocking them. So I couldn't even rebuild it without tearing down even more. And then when I started trying to tear down even more, I deleted one of the support structures and lost a whole bunch of the walls. The whole thing fell apart. Also, all the ceilings were gone. Like the whole second level, half the floors were gone because they were all attached to this wood. It was a disaster. And all my animals were gone, so I was faced with either rebuilding the rag base or just building a new base on a new server. It was practically a full rebuild anyway, so I built on this new server where some of my friends play, and moved everything over here from my center base, my Ragnarok base, my Extinction base, and what was the other one? There was one other base that I had that I moved over here recently, and I can't remember what it was. But yeah, check it out. Some of the cool new features. I've got a bunch of extra of this dedicated storage. I got it stacked really high, and I got this little platform here to get up to some of this stuff. I'm going to put mostly light stuff up here, lighter stuff on the top. And I put this little gate on it so that I could seal it off because these things used to be bugged and anybody could just loot them. But I think they finally fixed them, but since I don't trust Wildcard, I just put a door on it. And so that's one of the cool new features. I got a double stack of bookshelves. I used to have my extra, all my extra blueprints on some animals that I would just kind of stick up on top because animals have a really high inventory limit. But since all my animals decayed, I didn't want to trust animals anymore to hold extra stuff because I had a whole bunch of blueprints on animals. I had a whole bunch of I had a bunch of beehives on animals, and I had a bunch of extra sap and extra gunpowder and extra ammo and extra weapons and extra scans and extra what's the other thing, the little dumb little pets, what do you call them, chibis. I had a crap load of those chibis. All of those were on animals for storage because they're light and you can just store 300 items on a tame, but none of these containers that held anywhere near that much. So I had them all on the animals, but all the animals decayed, so I lost all that shit. Really big bummer. I finally rebuilt though, and this new base is really cool. So yeah, here's another one of the cool new things I got. I got stacked smithies. Look at this. It's very unusual. I don't think anyone really knows how to do this. I actually figured out how to do this myself. Like, I don't know. Like, was it 4 or 5 years ago now? I don't even know. Whenever the first ARC video I put out was, you can actually see, I think, in one of my earliest ARC videos, this same stacked system going on. except for I was using wooden catwalks and stuff, and I had it up next to a wall. But they changed it a little. I couldn't stack it quite the same as I used to, but I found another way to adjust a little bit and stack it anyway. And so that's going on here. I'm going to make a video on how to do this because it's pretty neat. You can really cram a lot of storage. These have 75 slots each, and I still like them to have them in my workshop because I craft on this one, and you could put some certain things like I've got armors and saddles and weapons and stuff, and you put a little bit of repair material in there, and you can easily just repair them and where they're stored. They're going to have some new items though in the Genesis 2 that's supposed to be like armor racks and loadout stuff. That's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to have to check that out. But yeah, so like here's 350, but like a handful of these in the same amount of space can have even more storage, and it's kind of unique looking. I've got these stacked fryers in here still like I had on the other one. I managed to cram some of these barrels in here. There's a little bit of a trick on these. I've got two different water lines running right on top of each other, but with an offset between them, so I can stack these twice as stacked. But the downside is because of where I'm sourcing my water from, it doesn't auto-fill them, so I have to manually fill them. But I don't really care. I only put them there mostly for decoration. I almost never make beer anyway. Who cares? But this is my greenhouse. I haven't put the crops in yet. I might not do it until the Genesis 2 comes out because there's supposed to be some new crop plots that are coming out. So I'm going to check that out and see what that's about. I'm basically just killing time until Genesis 2 comes out. I want to kind of consolidate my base, all my bases, so I have less to maintain when I'm trying to check out the new content. I don't want to have to be spending too much time maintaining other old stuff when I'm trying to do new stuff. And here's the Dino Hanger area, as I usually have it. I put some extra railings on here, and there's some trees like poking through, so it looks like there's vines. And it's a lot cleaner on this version. The center version of this also had the same thing where you don't see the support pillars because they're totally hidden within this wall, within these behemoth gates. And it's just a real seamless, like, inside. It looks really cool. Oh yeah, one of the other things I didn't show that already passed is that you see all these. Look at this. Underneath the floor, I have these. I have all my. I have all these fence foundations like I normally have to, but they're all hidden under the floor. Like normally I'd build them above the floor, and I'd put my structures on top of them. But then you have a bunch of fence foundations sticking out all over the place, and I didn't want to do it that way this time. So I hid all those under the floor. All of these dino gates are actually snapped to the ones that are under the floor, so that the floor itself is nice and clean. And also I'm doing it on these diagonal walls. The diagonal walls are actually supported by those fence foundations under the floor, so you don't see them on top of the floor. And actually the other cool thing that's crazy is that not only is this diagonal wall supported by a diagonal fence foundation under the floor that's snapped to the one under here, but also so is this this whole thing that I've got the extra smithies stacked on top of. That's all snapped to the ones that are under the floor, and it all connects, and it's mostly hidden, so it doesn't look so ugly on in the area we actually are walking around. I don't mind having this stuff on the ceiling. You gotta have it somewhere, but this is the Dino Hanger anyway, so it doesn't need to be as pretty. But I got my pipes and electrical running down here. I tried to keep it pretty clean and concise, and I think it looks pretty sharp. You could actually bury that in the floor, but it'll poke out just a little bit, and so I just and if you put it right in the floor, like if you put these cables in the floor, these electrical boxes will glow through the floor from above. And I don't really like to see the little flickering that they do, so I deliberately put it a little lower so that they're well enough under the floor that they don't flicker above. You don't see the flicker up above, because I don't want to see the flickering. I've become really really anal, I guess, about the details of the build, because I've built it so many times now. I want to I improve on it each time, and it just gets a little better and better. And now also I've got stacked. Okay, I got rain coming through the ceiling. That's an art glitch. That's not my fault. But yeah, I've got these stacked cryo fridges over here. These are actually sitting on a platform under the floor, and that's why they're actually sticking down through the floor a little bit. But you can still access them from here. And since they've been lowered just enough, you can put a catwalk on top of them and run even more on top. And that's all being supported by these things here that they snap onto a wall. I mean, a ceiling that's under the floor, but the ceiling's at a diagonal. So this snapped fence foundation's also at a diagonal. But it's you get it. The craziest thing about this build now is that you got to be so precise with your build order, because if you build anything in the wrong order, it won't work. But I've built it so many times now that I've gotten pretty good at making sure I get the build order right. Yeah, also normally I would have to have fence foundations running across these doorways to support my my behemoth gates and this tech gate, but they're also hidden under the floor on this version. And let's look around a little bit more. I've got this stacked like I had on the last version. It's just a lot more cryo storage. Basically, I have cryo storage for different species over here, like ones that I have breeding projects for, like my berries, or I just have a bunch of drakes, so I put them all in one place, my wyverns and stuff like that. But then I have some more that are like general categories over here. Egg junk, egg layers, workers, boss teams, stuff like that. And I've pretty much put everything in cryo at the moment, except for some reason it says I have 2. I don't know what the second one is. Hover skiff doesn't count as 2, I don't think. So that's odd. I don't know where the second one is. I looked all over the base and I couldn't find it. That's a player. That's not a team. Here's my new incubation room. It's pretty much the same as before, except for I've got like a little bit more fence protection. So if I'm killing a crappy baby, I don't damage all my walls. And I've got all these stacked fridges in here now. And I left the wall itself open so that if I, hatch anything bigger in here and I just want to walk it out the door, I can walk it out the door, the big door. And yeah, this was kind of a trick here too. There's a couple of videos on how to stack fridges like this, but there's a difference between the way they're doing it and the way I'm doing it. For one thing, these fridges are a little lower than they normally would be because I've got a catwalk on top of them instead of a ceiling. Like if you just stack a ceiling on top, they don't have to be so low, and you can actually kind of stack the ceiling into the top of the fridge and build on top of it, but the ceilings are extra wide, and I wanted the second layer of fridges to be further back and not so far forward and not with a big lip of a ceiling hanging out in front of them. So I lowered these even more, and then when I lowered them even more and I tried to put the floor down at the same level as the rest of the floor in here, I couldn't access the fridges. So I lowered the floor and put a little stair thing down to it and blocked off the gaps. And then I was able to place these catwalks on here, but you can't just place the catwalk on there. It won't let you do that either. You have to build it in a really intricate order where you're taking advantage of the fact that the catwalks can replace themselves at a different angle. I'm going to make a video on this later too. But it was very intricate, and I didn't know exactly how it was going to work, so I experimented around for a while before I got it to work, and I did eventually obviously get it to work, and I think it looks pretty nice like this. I got a double stack. I don't have a huge lip of a ceiling sticking way out, because the ceiling would stick out all the way to over here instead of way back here, so it just looks cleaner this way. But yeah, it was a little bit more effort. Let's see. Let me show you. I'm trying to turn off the crosshair. There it is. Let me show you some of the underneath parts. So here's my mechanical room. I usually build a mechanical room on my builds, kind of out of the way because I don't like the noise. I don't like the noise of this thing, so I keep it all the way down here instead of away from the rest of my base. And I especially don't like the noise of this thing. It's awful. And I especially don't like the noise of all these damn air conditioners. So mostly I've been leaving this off. But and I also disconnected all of these air conditioners from the normal power line. Like I have a separate power line that all of these air conditioners are connecting to that's underneath the air conditioners, and it's not connected to the main power line, so that whenever this one's on, these aren't on, because I don't want to hear these stupid things all the time. Unless I'm actually incubating something, then I want it to be off. So that's why I've disconnected it. And unless I'm actually, unless I actually have some food in those troughs, then I'm not bothering turning this one on either. But yeah, and so this one actually goes even lower. So I'm going to go all the way down to the ground, and this is my support structure. It's pretty similar in most ways as it was before, where I have as much spacing as I can have between ceilings. But because of the way I built this out, you'll notice my pillars don't poke through the floors. A lot of people, when they just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna build all the ceiling and I'm gonna add some more supports and just keep going and add some more. If you do it like that, you'll have ceilings poking through all your floors because you're attaching the pillar to the floor itself. But instead, what I did was first I put like a thatched lattice of a ceiling at a little lower of a level, and I did all that with the pillars. Like normally you'd build your normal floor, but I did it with a thatched lattice instead. Then I put ceilings on top of that, so that the ceilings all snapped on top of the pillars instead of the pillars snapping on top of the ceilings, because there's a different snap point they'll use. That this way it still counts as connected, and if you're using metal, it won't poke through at all. You can't see the metal at all. If you use wood or stone, it'll poke through just a little bit, and you can see the stone, and it's really not very noticeable. But with metal, you can't see it at all. It's completely unnoticeable. So I went with metal this time. Looks really clean above, and yeah, I went with just the minimal amount of supports that I could get away with down here. But there's a couple of weird things like this. These are actually supporting the dino gates and those diagonal sections of the the different platforms above. So this is basically, it's like a separate structure tied in to my main structure, but according to the game, it counts separately. So that's how that works, and put a grinder down here too, because I occasionally will want it, and it's ugly and big and stupid. So I just hit it down here into the floor, so I don't have to have it anywhere else in my base. It's just really an eyesore. I thought about trying to use one of those Trapo, whatever you call them, to do the grinding, but apparently they can't grind everything, and they're really slow. So I didn't. But yeah, here's another one of these diagonal structures that's tied in. You can see how it works. It's basically this is an independent structure. The behemoth gate actually sits on this. It's actually snapped to this piece right here. But because of the way behemoth gates and regular dino gates try to follow the terrain, they'll snap to a structure like this, but they'll actually sit on this, the level above, like anything that's got collision above. So either the terrain or the ceiling up there. And then this fence foundation right here is snapped onto this one, so it's actually technically part of this structure, but it's at the level of the other structure. And then I've got a hidden support wall inside the behemoth gate that goes up and supports all the diagonal sections of the platforms. Another cool thing down here is I totally seamlessly blocked off the bottom of the wall. You got to use two different methods, and one method is, I'll show you from the outside, you can't really tell on the inside. But actually, there's two different methods. One you can't see from the outside, one you can't see from the inside. But together, they make a nice, clean wall. But yeah, the one that you can't see from the inside is these fence foundations. I've got a layer of a line of fence foundations, and some of the sections of wall here are basically a wall snapped onto the fence foundation that overlaps with the wall above. And some of these sections are the foundations, and you can't really hardly tell which is which. That's because now you can actually toggle the foundations. Like if there's actually a foundation around here, here's one. You can toggle you can toggle it to look like a block, and it uses walls. So I mean this one's a little messy because the overlap came out weird, but generally it looks pretty seamless between the two methods. And I put fence foundations along the whole wall, even on the parts where there's foundations, because it's more consistent. So yeah, it makes a nice, clean, seamless all the way to the ground. There's no gaps. Nobody can sneak, fit under. And I don't know. Looks like I'm stuck. All right. But yeah, it's a nice, clean look. Yeah, this is my most elaborate build yet. It's all these little details, you know. There's a lot of these little details. There's a tiny gap here. I can't squeeze through it though. Nobody can even see in hardly under there. But yeah, I also did a lot of other little attention to detail things. Like I put these little pieces of wall around all the trees around here. So it just not only does it look kind of nice, but in case any of these come down for any reason, like somebody knocks them down for some reason, you can actually replant these with refertilizer. There's an item in the game called refertilizer. And if you use it nearby trees or rocks that have been removed after a certain amount of time, it'll replace them. It'll put them right back. And so in order to find the trees, though, I need to know where they were. So these little decorative walls here, they serve two purposes. Not only they look nice, but they also tell me where the trees were, so I can put the trees back in case somebody knocks them down. But yeah, here's the front of the underside of the base. Let me get a wyvern out and fly around a little bit so you can see the area. There she is, and nestled between these trees. I tried to leave as much of the trees and grass and rocks around so that it looks like it's just part of the, you know, it's just fitting in with the nature. Looks really quite nice. I've got a couple of transmitters on this one. I've got one outside so I can, you know, download big animals or that kind of thing, or somebody from anybody can use the one outside. It's unlocked. And then I got another one inside that's close to the workshop so that I can easily upload heavy materials from my storage. I also got this little bridge out here. This is pretty crazy. It's going between these two flying islands. You can actually walk across this. It's a bit nerve-wracking because if you fall, it's a long way down. These are really cool. I've never actually used these things before. They're really neat. I didn't think it would actually reach that far, but sure enough, it did. Yeah, look at the whole base from up here. It looks really cool. But yeah, it's more or less the same build, just slightly improved in a lot of different little ways. This time, I couldn't go out as far on the front, on this front area. I mean, I could have gone out a little further, but the thing is if I go out much further, whoa, what is that? A lystro falling out of the air? That's weird. Let's see. Yeah, I was trying to go out a little further before, but it made the pillars just get more, and they were taller and taller and taller, and there was just more and more stonework I had to do to kind of close it off. It looked a little extreme. Plus, if I had it hanging out much further, this teleporter, teleporter, it would have been hanging over the void. And occasionally when you warp in, you get put underneath. So if somebody warps in and then they fall to their death, it's not a good idea. So as it is, it's still over my land, so they won't fall forever. They won't fall so far. But yeah, it's pretty cool looking. I added some more windows. Wait, ooh, that's a lag warp. Added some more windows inside. Okay, it's really laggy right now. Believe it or not, this server's less laggy than my Ragnarok server was. The Ragnarok server apparently doesn't even routinely save anymore. It's so fucking laggy. But yeah, I added this extra window here because I never actually used the Dino Gate thing for anything anyway. So just got a nice decorative window. But yeah, it's that's the build. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of it. This is the best version yet. I managed to get my little my Therizino pictures up on this one as well, because this is my first Theri that I ever raised on the entire game, and he had sentimental value, but he was on the old Legacy cluster, and I couldn't bring him over to the new cluster when I started, playing on the new cluster. So I took a picture of him with some of my other favorite Theris and brought the picture to the new cluster here, so I can always have my first little Elmo. That's what his name was, Elmo. So there he is. I brought Elmo along. He's back where he belongs. And yep, here it is. It's a pretty cool base. I also have my center base still for now. I'm trying to give it away or sell it. I did clear out of it, and I am trying to get rid of it again. A couple of people said they wanted it, but they never made an offer. I say make any offer, make an offer. and they never respond. So, I mean, guess they didn't want it that bad. But it's still available. It looks almost the same as this one, minus a few little details. It doesn't have this. It doesn't have so many railings inside. It's almost otherwise the same. It doesn't have the seamless gate supports though. But it's very similar, and it's in a really cool spot too. But it's on a very quiet server. It's too quiet. It's kind of lonely over there. It's a center server. So if you like that, it might be a great server for you. But I got bored, and I wanted to consolidate all my bases into one base, so I had less to maintain. So I'm over here now, checking out the view. I'm going to have to figure out why it's not rendering those trees. It did it before, I'm pretty sure. Because, yeah, when I was scouting this out, I saw pink trees over there. And now it's not showing me the pink trees. But anyway, yeah, it's a great new build. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the tour. Hope you're into some of these little inane details, like these really, you know, obsessive compulsive details that I put into the new build. I'm gonna make a video on how to do a couple of these things, like the stacked fridges in here and the stacked smithies, because I don't think anyone knows how to do those stacked smithies anymore. Maybe Fat Dog does. That guy's crazy. That guy knows how to build everything apparently. But normal people don't know how to do that. So I'll make a little video about it. And tune in next time. Have a good one. See ya.